I want trans women in the women's bathrooms. That sentence alone makes people uncomfortable. Some people will stop listening the moment they hear a sentence like that. Bathrooms have become this sort of unregulated battleground rather than what they are, a functional private place where you just want to use it in peace and get along with your day. But I'm not saying this to provoke. I'm saying it because the more I think about it, the more I think that allowing trans people to use their gender-affirming bathrooms is a lot safer for everyone involved, including people who are born as women, trans women, and honestly, society as a whole.
3 boys aged between 12 and 16 have been arrested after a trans woman was stabbed in Stockton, County Durham, police have said. The incident is being treated as a hate crime. Paulie Likens, a 14-year-old transgender teenager, was found dismembered near the Golden Run Wildlife Area.
For those who don't know me, I'm a transgender male who was jumped with my girlfriend and my 2 best friends by a group of 15 people. A lot of people say to me that it's my own fault that we were jumped and that probably made a scene. But what I wanted to ask is to those people, if you think sitting quietly in a park with 3 people you love is making a scene, then I don't really know what to say to you at all. No indication whatsoever. They only knew I was trans because they knew who I was beforehand and started instantly shouting, transphobic comments at me. And then as a result of that, 5 people threw me to the ground and began to maliciously stamp on my head, kick my body, kick me in the face, everywhere until I was curled up in a ball on the floor.
This isn't ideology. This is about practical safety, lived reality, and the whole fear versus evidence debate. Before I start, I want to be very clear about what this video is and what it isn't. This isn't an attack on women. This is definitely not to dismiss any conversations about safety, and it isn't claiming that people are wrong for feeling uncomfortable. This conversation is to look at real world outcomes, evidence and lived experience, and asking about whether the conversations we are having around these bathrooms actually makes people safer or whether it's really just creating harm where it doesn't need to be. I am approaching this in good faith, and I really hope that you can approach it the same. Before we start, please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. We are on the road to 1,000 subs, and I would love for you to join this corner of the internet. Let's get into it. So I want to talk about just black and white. What happens when we have a very visibly feminine trans woman who is forced to use the men's bathroom because they were born male at birth? Not hypothetically or politically, I just want to talk about what realistically could happen.
Let me explain to y'all how I was kicked out the girls' restroom today, and I'm forbidden to go in there now because of someone lying on me. Let me explain. I am a trans girl, and I am black, and I am beautiful, and I love myself. I go into the girls' restroom to mind my business, and I go into the girls' restroom to do my due, and I don't do nothing else. You get what I mean? I don't go in there taking pictures of anybody. I don't go in there harassing people. I don't go in there peeking under stalls or anything. So I don't understand why I cannot go and use a restroom that I identify with.
A trans woman who looks female, who sounds female, who presents ultimately female, walking into the men's bathroom immediately becomes visible. She stands out. She is very vulnerable. She's put in a situation where men may feel confused, threatened, hostile, or emboldened. And that's where the real danger is existing. This isn't abstract. Trans women are far more statistically likely to experience harassment and violence, especially in gendered spaces where they are forced to be somewhere where they don't feel they belong. So when people argue that trans people must use the bathroom of their birth sex, I have to ask, who is that really protecting? Because I'll be honest, it's clearly not protecting the trans people. I think a lot of the fear about trans women using the women's bathroom is built on assumption that someone born male at birth is inherently dangerous. That assumption doesn't just hurt trans women, it reinforces the idea that all men are predators and that womanhood is something that must be defended from infiltration. And here's the real thing. Predators don't need permission. Predators don't follow signage. They definitely don't follow the rules. I don't think I can imagine there's any evidence that really shows a big increase in assaults because we're allowing trans women to use the women's bathroom. What does increase danger, however, is forcing vulnerable people into spaces that clearly they're at risk in. Fear isn't the same thing as safety. And something that really just blows my mind in this whole conversation, the women's bathroom aren't even open. They're not like open locker rooms. They're individual cubicles. You don't see bodies. You don't interact unless you choose to. Most people avoid eye contact, they wash their hands and they want to leave. So when people say, I don't want someone who's born male in the women's bathrooms, I wonder what they think is really happening in there. Because functionally, nothing changes. Privacy already exists. There are boundaries there that already exist. Social norms already exist. They're the women's bathrooms. You go into your cubicle, you go toilet, you wash your hands, you get out. The idea that the women's bathrooms suddenly become unsafe just because a trans woman is using them, it doesn't really match reality in my opinion. I'll be honest, if there was a guy that was absolutely bursting for the toilet, he couldn't hold it and the women's was the only that was available, I wouldn't mind him using it. And I understand some women have concerns about safety because of their own experiences and feeling afraid of men. I do understand that, but we can't. But this is a lot deeper of a conversation, I feel. And something that I have noticed, and yes, maybe it is anecdotal, but for me, it seems consistent. A lot of the loudest opposition about trans women using the women's bathrooms doesn't come from the women themselves. It comes from men speaking on women's behalf. Men deciding what the women should fear. Men deciding what safe spaces for women means. Men protecting danger from women when they don't even often report feeling it. That doesn't mean that no women have concerns, but it does raise the question of whose discomfort is really being prioritised and whose safety is being ignored. Because when you speak to many women, the women's bathroom is often described as a very safe place, one that is quite neutral or even comforting, not a fragile one that is constantly under threat. I think we need to be asking ourselves something a lot more honestly. Why should I be afraid of a trans person, specifically a trans woman, when there is no genuine evidence-based theory for that? Discomfort is not danger. Unfamiliarity is not harm. And fear, when it is repeated enough, does then become policy. If we keep building these rules up around some imaginary threats, we are punishing people that have done nothing wrong. We're solving nothing. At its core, this debate isn't about bathrooms. It's about who we believe. It's about whose safety we are prioritizing. It's about whether we let fear override empathy and evidence. Allowing trans people into the bathrooms doesn't erase femininity or womanhood. It doesn't endanger privacy, as like I have said, the women's bathroom is so private. It doesn't open the door for chaos. Realistically, we wouldn't even know half the time if a trans woman is using that space. Some people we wouldn't know because the bathrooms are private. We see nothing. If we see someone who is very femininely presenting and maybe they haven't had their gender assignment surgery, we still wouldn't know because the women's bathrooms are private bathrooms. What I think this does do is really acknowledge reality. People feel scared of trans people and there is no reason for that. We shouldn't be allowing harm to be happening against the trans community just because some people feel uncomfortable or they don't understand. And I think if the goal is safety and it is dignity and people being able to live their lives without being in risk, then to me, that answer feels clear. People shouldn't be against trans women or trans men using their designated bathrooms for their chosen gender, because when we are getting them to use their birth gender, they aren't in safe spaces, they are at risk. Please do let me know your thoughts down below. I know this video could be quite controversial for some people and it is something probably a little bit more political. I just think it's a conversation that I think it needs speaking about more, and whether or not you agree with gender reaffirming surgery or anything to do with the trans community, I'm not saying you have to definitely agree or disagree or whatever, but ultimately they aren't harming you. They are normal people, and the way that people speak about trans people as if they are almost not human or that they are different to us, and they're not. I'm a born female woman who loves YouTube and loves creating content, and I love to cook, and that is who I am. And because someone's trans doesn't make them that's their identity and them as a whole person. They might love to dance, or they might love fashion, or they might love racing cars or watching the football. And why are we taken away from the fact that they're human just because they're slightly different? I'm different. I have half and half hair. I've got chronic health issues. I am quote unquote different to maybe how my partner looks and what he does. And we are all different, and we shouldn't be afraid of differences, especially not endangering those with any differences. It's just a very complicated conversation, and one that I feel I don't have a big platform. I know I don't have a big platform, but I have a space where I am putting out my opinion, and I think it's an important opinion to be sharing, especially when we look at the current world affairs. Trans people are facing a lot of discrimination, and it isn't fair. It isn't fair for people to be living in fear just because they don't feel like they were born into a body they belong. That isn't right. And I have a small corner of the internet, a very small corner of the internet, and even if this video reaches one person that either makes them feel seen or maybe it changes the opinion of someone, then I think that's a great thing, and that my platform has been used for good. And ultimately, if someone watching this thinks that this is a completely bizarre take and I'm in the wrong, then I'm sorry, I don't want you watching my videos, because why shouldn't we allow that? There's nothing to prove that trans women are inherently dangerous, as again, I think is built on an assumption that anyone born male must be a predator. And realistically, we could have women who are born women who are predators using the women's bathroom. So the point is irrelevant. Anyone can be a predator. A man isn't just the only one who can be a predator. A woman can be a predator. Someone who's non-binary can be a predator. Anyone who's trans can be a predator. It is not just linked to one type of person. One type of person being a wrong-un, however, is not linked to a gender or a sex or anything like that. So we need to kind of abolish the whole idea that any male is dangerous. And I'll be honest, I have my own fears and my own reasons for those fears. So I'm not to say that that thought is irrational, because I get it without divulging too much information, but all men aren't predators, and trans women aren't all predators, and we need to really reshape how we are looking at these problems, because I'll be honest, they aren't the big concern at the moment. After hearing everything on in the news at the moment, every day there is heavy news, regardless of what country you look in and regardless of what space it is, there is constantly negativity everywhere, and the communities to target isn't the trans community. I'll be honest, it is not. So we need to be having these healthier conversations around why we should be accepting of these communities, and really that they don't affect us. Someone being trans does not affect my day. I want them to use the bathroom in peace. I want them to feel safe and comfortable. They don't threaten me in any way, and I hope a lot of people can either look that way or start to change their opinion to that way, because we need safety and we need acceptance, and we need to live in a society that is a lot more accepting, as I feel like right now we are going backwards. I know this was a little bit heavier, and again, just something different for the channel, but I hope you did enjoy, and please do let me know your thoughts down below. As I said, I really want this to be a safe space, so if there are any negative comments, I will be trying to delete them, as I just don't want this space to be filled with negativity against trans people. I am happy to have open and constructive conversations, but none that are built on just hate. So yeah, I will leave it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. As I did say, please be sure to subscribe down below. I am making a lot more videos, and I'm hoping to grow this little corner of the internet so we can be putting forward a lot more positivity out into the world, or just awareness. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.